Hi, welcome. Site content management system for the FDOT.gov website and other FDOT sites is provided by Progress Software Sitefinity. Sitefinity allows for fast and easy deployment of web pages with minimal HTML coding needed, as well as analytics capability, user access control, file and image management and storage, revision history, and many other useful features. FDOT offices and departments each have their own site, which is maintained by staff according to their user roles. We have 3 user roles at FDOT for web authors. The first one being the site owner, who has full rights to the site and editing and approving capabilities. There's the site approver role, who also has full editing and publishing capabilities and the ability to approve changes by other site contributors. And then there's the site contributor role, who has limited editing capabilities before they are published. Logging into the Sitefinity system. Basically, you go to fdot.gov/Sitefinity, and it will take you to this login screen that you see here. Now, basically, we just use the ADFS login. The ADFS allows for the sharing of credentials between platforms, and in the case of Sitefinity, allows FDOT staff to use their network credentials to log into Sitefinity without having to maintain unique login credentials for the Sitefinity users. If you are logged into the network, clicking the ADFS button without entering anything up here, simply clicking on the ADFS button will log you in directly to the system. If you're not logged into the network, you'll be presented with an additional credentials screen where you'll type in your email and password. Now, when you first log in, the first thing you'll see is the dashboard. The dashboard has some helpful information, some system information. There's also a few small tutorials for common tasks that you may need to do. There's some analytics information here at the top. You also have your recent items and recent items in general that other people have worked on. So you have my content and recent items. But the heart of the system, basically, that you'll be working in is in pages. So in the pages area that you get to right up here in this from the menu bar, are where your web pages are organized and managed from. You can create new pages, modify existing pages, publish or unpublish, view your revision history, restore previous published versions, and a lot more actually. But you see that it's basically organized in a folder structure, and each office has their own folder. Now in Sitefinity, these folders are actually referred to as group pages. And a group page is basically just a container for other pages. And we'll take a look here. If you can see, if we expand out aviation, for example, you'll see all of the pages beneath the aviation website. So these are all the pages they maintain. Now from here, you can do things quickly, like if you wanted to do an operation on several pages at once, you can select those and select bulk actions up here. You can publish and unpublish, for example. I'll deselect these for now. And over here on the right, under this little ellipsis, you have several other options. You can go to the title and properties of that page. You can create a child page or duplicate. You can set the permissions for those pages. These are normally things that you wouldn't necessarily have to do just as a web author. Revision history. This becomes important because if you make a mistake or if you don't like what you've got out there, you can very quickly go to the revision history of that page and select, well, this one doesn't actually have any, but you can select a previous version and restore that right away. which makes it easier for just working on things because you have the confidence to go and make a change. And if it's not right, you can very quickly revert it back to what it was. Now, creating a page. We'll go down to this test area here. We've got a folder already set up to play around in. Collapse these. So under our test folder, you have a couple of options to create a page. You can go from the actions here and create a child page, which will create a page underneath this test group page or folder. Or you can go up to this create a page and do it right from there. You want to give it a title. And you'll notice there are some other properties here. Now, at top level, this would just create it outside of the folder structure. It'll just be in the top level. And normally you want to have it underneath a parent page. And you can select that here. We'll scroll down and find our test group page. So we just select that, use selected. And you have some other options. You can make this a group page. So for example, you have your main office site, but you can also divide that up and organize it however you like by creating your own group pages here. And you can also set it to redirect to another page if you needed to do that. So we'll just hit continue. Now the next step is to select the template. Now, FDOT.gov web pages all use pretty much one of two templates. There is the default new supporting template, which we're going to use. And this is the majority of all our sites, and you can see by over 2,000 pages. And then there's also the default new home. And this is usually just the home page of your office. And we'll get into more detail on this because this one requires a little bit more work. It's a little bit more fancy than the typical page. But just to quickly show how to create a page, we'll select the supporting page template. And we have a lot of things running here. We've got the recording and the Teams meeting and all that. So sometimes that slows down the operations a little bit. And it's thinking. And finally, there we are. So basically what we're looking at here is the edit mode of our new page. And this is basically the blank or new template. Up at the top here is some information that is not anything that that anyone has access to unless you're the owner of the entire Sitefinity application. You have a standard menu bar here. You've got a breadcrumb area here. And what you can do, because right now, obviously, this is a little bit difficult to look at. It doesn't look like much. You just have all these elements in here. If you want to see what it's actually going to look like, there's a preview button here at the top. If you click that, this is what the page actually looks like once it's published to the world. Now, we talked a little bit about templates. If a brand new template has all of this information in it, and this is basically just an example. When you actually go to work on your page, you'll clear all of this out. But in the meantime, if you want to use any of these or you like the way some of this looks, you can look at the HTML or copy elements of that out and use it however you like. So what we'll do here is this element here is called a content block, and we're here in a minute, and you can see them over here. But a content block is kind of the most basic widget that you'll use, and you'll use it for pretty much all of your content. So it contains all of your text. You can have images, and all of your widgets, you'll notice they have an edit button over here, and that's how you'll change them. So we'll click into edit to this, and you see it already has some information. This is just from the template, and you can clear this out. And we'll just put some text in here. Now, in this content block, you'll notice it's kind of like any word processing type of interface. You can change all of the headers, change it to something different. We'll leave that at header 1 just so it looks good. You'll notice this line here is header 2. You also can bold things and italicize it. You can add a list of the numbered lists and bullet lists. You can also turn things into, and I'll show you right now, if you highlight any of your text on your page and you hit this link button, you'll have a link screen. And you can either just type in a URL. We'll just do www.fdot.gov. Or you can select a page or a document, which we'll get into a little bit later also. So these are all the pages in the Sitefinity website. So you can create a link to any of those pages, or you can choose a document from your document library, example. And you have here, this is the text that's going to be displayed, and that's what it's going to link to. And you hit insert link, and now this is a link. Now, anytime that you make a change in one of your content blocks or any of your widgets, you'll want to save it. Now, saving that only saves this information that you just changed in this session that you're in. If you were to leave this page without saving it as a draft or publishing it, that change would be lost. So that save button within your widgets are just for the work that you're doing immediately in this widget. For example, we'll clear all of this out since we don't want that to display. You can also add images, tables. You can set the orientation of your paragraphs, all of the things that you would expect from a word processing type interface. So we'll save that. And I cleared that out. And we'll clear this one out too. Another thing that can be very useful, and in some cases it's necessary, for example, in the homepage template we're going to look at, you'll need to do this. You can edit the HTML directly, and that's what this little icon here, and you can see View HTML. If you click that, there's all of your HTML, and you can copy and paste this, change it, whatever you like. When you're done with it, you hit done. It'll show you that. And then, of course, here, let's get rid of all this, though. And we'll save it. And that's it. And if we want to take a look and see what it's really going to look like, that's what our page looks like. So once you have your page created and you've got it, the content the way you want it, you have a couple of options. You can save it as a draft, which will not be published to the outside world, but it'll be available to you to go back into later and continue work on it. Or if you're a site approver or site owner, you can just publish it directly. So we'll hit publish. And your page has been published successfully. So now this page is available to the world. Now, if you're a site contributor, your options are slightly different. So here we are in an edit mode, and we'll make a quick change here. Page, put some exclamation points on it. How's that? Save that. Now you notice you can, as a site contributor, you can save it as a draft and continue work on it later. Or if you're ready to have it published, you have to send it for approval. Now, when you do this, you get a little approval page and you can add notes. Added exclamation points. And then you'll send that for approval, excuse me. But otherwise, if you're a site approver, you can just publish it directly, as we've seen. Now let's talk a little bit about the widgets. We've already went over the content block a little bit, but the way widgets work is you have your toolbox over here and you can just click and drag them. So if we wanted another content block, we'll just drag it over. Add your content. As a content block, and let's make that yeah. So that's pretty much how all of these work. Now we've talked about the content block, which will be the majority of what you'll work with when you're editing pages. You also have forms. Now forms can be, like an email form or a survey or something, anything on those lines where you're wanting to retrieve some feedback or get some data out of something. Now forms, the widget is here where you drag it, but the forms are maintained and created in another area. But to use the form, you drag it onto your page like we just did. And then you select your form out of this list. These are a list of forms that people have created already, and they can be used in multiple pages if you wanted to. You can reuse them. And there's our form. We'll take a look at it. I don't think there's much on this one. Oh, there we go. So you see this form happens to have a name, text box, an email, comments, and then you can submit that. And we'll exit out here and we'll go look at the forms area where these are actually managed from. So back to the main area, under content, you have forms. And these are all the forms. So if we wanted to edit the form that we were just looking at, we'll open that up. And once it's open, we can add new elements to it. We can add more text boxes if we wanted more information. We can visually change it so we can add content blocks just like you can on a regular page. You can also determine where the information goes once somebody hits submit. So it takes a little bit. Here we go. And this is what our form looks like in edit mode. And similar to when you're working on a page, you have these widgets. There's more additional widgets over here that you can use on forms. And some of these are self-explanatory. There's check boxes. You can add a page break just as a visual element. Text boxes, an email box, submit buttons, all these things, a CAPTCHA. verification. So once you have your form the way that you like it, and you've got all the fields on it that you want to use, you can go over to the settings area, and this is where you can tell it where to send the information that you gather from this form. You can restrict it to how many times somebody can submit something. After submission, you can just show a message. It'll just pop up on its own page. Normally, we like to create our own page that looks very basic, blank page with this message in it. But normally you redirect it to a different page, like a thank you or congratulations, however you want to do that. You can send a confirmation email back to the person, whoever submitted it, so that they know that we've received it. And you can send the notifications to somebody internally to make sure to go look and see what was submitted. So you have a lot of options with forms. Go back out of here. So the next thing we're going to talk about a little bit are documents. So in Sitefinity, you can have, or each office has its own document library, which you can get to from under the content menu, documents and files. Now, the documents in the FDOT Sitefinity system are stored on the back end in Azure Blob Storage. They're managed right here through the documents and files area. Each office has their own document library where they can create sub-libraries and organize their site's documents. Storing your files this way allows you to use other helpful features here in Sitefinity, such as document lists. You can go to revision history and restore documents. You can link documents very easily. Once you have a link to one of your documents here in one of these libraries, if you replace a document, you don't have to then go and change the link on the page. So we'll just take a look here. We'll go into the construction document library, and you'll see underneath their library, they've got several other libraries. We'll just go into this area here. And even under this sub-library, there are other sub-libraries, and here's a document. So this is a PowerPoint. Now from here, you can grab the embed link right there. If you wanted to manually add that or send it to somebody, this is a direct link to that document. And you can see it has it has the whole document URL, and then it has some Sitefinity specific information for version controls. But also from here, you have several actions. You can delete it. You can move it up here in the list. You can unpublish it or download it. You can edit the properties of these documents. You can find the revision history and restore things. If we were to open this, we can open the document here and take a look at it. Or you can replace the file with a new one. And once you do that, any link that you've already had to it on any of your pages will automatically point to the new document. Now, if you want to upload documents, here's a button right here where you can upload. You can either drag and drop files into this window, or you can select them from your local file system or from somewhere on the network. And once you have that in there, you need to publish it, which is in this button right here. And then that makes the link available. It makes the link live. Until that, basically. Okay. Now the next widget we'll talk about a little bit are lists. And lists are also another feature that can come in very handy. And I'll show you real quick what a list can look like. You have several options when you're building these. So we will take this list widget and drag it over. And then once that's there, you'll want to select an existing list. And just like forms, lists are created and managed in their own section. When we're in the page editing like this, you're simply adding it to your page and then selecting an existing list, which we would do just like that. And we'll select, let's do training links. Somebody's created a training links list. And we'll see what that looks like just straight out of the box. This is what that list looks like, and we'll preview it real quick. And that's a list, just like you'd expect. Now, you can edit this. You can change the look and feel of this by changing the template. Now, if list has more information underneath these titles, you can select one of these, for example, expandable lists with no header. And we'll do that. And now we have a list that is automatically expands out and organizes this for you. And of course, another option is to have this already expanded for you, just right out of the box. You can do it from here. So as you can see, this could be a very powerful tool, a very helpful tool, if you have a large list of documents or resources that you need to keep up with. And I'll show you here how you manage that. So once again, content, lists, and you can search for a list. Sometimes there's a lot in there. Oop, I didn't do that. Well, we'll just select one of these. So this is the FRO staff list, and they have these 3 list items. And within each list item, you can have whatever you like. Well, for example, when we were looking at it a minute ago on the other list, when we expanded it out, there was additional content. Well, that's what this would be here. So if we were to have added this list to our page and selected the expandable ones, this is what it would expand as. And as you can tell, if you want to add a list item, you would create a title, and then you would add your content. And the content can have any number of elements in it, HTML. You can edit all of those things. You can make it as fancy as you like, basically. So those are lists. The next thing we'll talk about are images. Can be a pretty important element to web pages. Now, just like documents and files, images are also stored in Azure in the back end and managed right here through this through the Sitefinity system. And you can see all of the offices have their own image libraries. Now we can open one of these. We'll just open the top one here and see what some of this looks like. And these are all the images in their image library. Now, of course, it's pretty obvious at this point, if you want to add more images to it, you upload an image. And just like the documents and files, you can either select it from your file system, or drag an image over to add it to this. And then you'll publish it, of course, to make it available. And just like documents and files, you have all of these options here. You can edit the properties, you can set permissions. You also have the same embed where you can get the link directly here. So you can navigate here on the left side through all of the libraries here, but you also have this area on this side where you can expand these out and navigate through this way. So you have a couple of options there. So when you're on a page and you want to, we'll add an image here to one of the content blocks. And you have a couple of options with adding images. There's actually an image widget that you can click and drag over, just like all of the other widgets. You just click and drag it, and then you can select your image. So we'll just do that one. Done selecting. You have some options available, and you can save it. And that's the image. Now you can also add images just directly into the content block. So if you open a content block and you select the image button, you can either upload it directly or you can select it from one of the image libraries like we just did. Sometimes this takes a little bit. So anyway, you would select it from here. I've got too many things running, I think. But normally you would be presented with a list of images just like we did. Another image-related widget is the image gallery. And this is actually pretty nice for people who have a photos section, for example. Over. This might take a little while because sometimes it's resource intensive when you're editing it. But you see, well, right off the bat, it just selected the default list that was in there. So you can see it just gives you all of the images. It just presents them from a particular library. Right now it's selected to all libraries. That's the default. But you can for example, if you had your office's image library, and beneath that you had a staff folder that had pictures of all your staff in it, you can just select that that folder and it would just present those pictures for you. And you have options on how you want to present them like a list or only show how many to show at one time. For example, like this use paging, 20 items per page, that kind of thing. And this makes it a lot easier than having to just edit the HTML for every single one of these and having to have a link. And a similar thing with documents. Document libraries can be presented in a document list, whereas you just maintain your documents in the back end. And you don't have to worry about it. We'll just take a look at this and see how it loads. I mean, this is just straight out of the box vanilla. These images need to be re-uploaded, I believe. But you get the point. Feature. Another lesser used widget that is pretty cool, if I'm able to show it, is the navigation. So if you have your folder structure set up properly and named in a way that makes sense, you can actually use your own little navigation widget. And you see it just builds a nav bar. This is basically everything here, but you can drill this down to all pages beneath this a particular page. I'm having some problems with that. But if we preview that, this basically automatically links you to these pages. So it's a nice feature if you had within your site or a project site where you needed something that's kind of a sub menu that's not the same as the normal breadcrumb that you. But again, it requires that you have named your folders and your folder structure with actual readable English names, because it'll show it directly here. So if you had named it with system names with numbers and stuff, it probably wouldn't be so pretty. So that's basically the supporting page template that will occupy most of your pages. And it's fairly basic. The other template is the homepage template, and this one can require a bit more work and a little more HTML heavy operation. So we'll create another page. Test home, and we'll put that under our test folder again. Continue. Now this time when we select a template, we're going to select the default new home. And it might take a minute while it builds this out initially. Well, this template is one that you've seen surely before, especially with the new look and feel that we implemented recently. Each homepage has a nice banner with graphics that has the ability to scroll through, and a news ticker and all that kind of stuff. And all these things are not necessarily required for you to use, so you can just comment them out if you're not going to use it, or you can. A lot of people just have one picture. And it's just going to take, oh, that's not good. Let me try that again. Open that. So basically it created it, but it just timed out on me because of my local resources here. So this is what this template looks like in edit mode. And again, it doesn't look like much. A lot of the content is in the HTML code, which is not apparent in this this view. But if we preview this just right off the bat, you can see what the home page is kind of intended to be. So you see it has this beautiful banner here with pictures, and it just sort of carousels through a series of informational items with links and pictures in the background. This is probably one of the most complicated things out of all the things. It's not that complicated, but for this kind of system, it is. So you've got a newsroom, you've got some other content here, you've got some little quick links, that type of thing. So now working with this template requires you to do some HTML, and this could be a little bit hairy if you're not familiar with it, but if you look at it for a little while, it's not so bad. So basically, this is all of the code. There's a little bit of intro stuff here, and each item begins with this item active. And you'll notice, and sometimes you can find where you are from the text that's beneath it, but you'll see right up here, you've got your image. This is a link to a document here. So you can, a lot of times you can either comment a lot of these out or simply replace them. If you come up here and allow it to, so you can come in here and just replace this text, change where the hyperlink goes to in this section, and then that section ends and you've got another carousel item. This would be the next thing in the list. So again, you can either change the text that's there or remove it altogether, or just comment it out. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're adding the background images, this is quite a large area, and this the banner's not really intended to be like an image gallery. As you can see, it's a little bit darkened in the background. It's really meant to just be a background for whatever text you want to highlight here. But as you can see, there's a lot of space to fill, and the shape of it's a little bit rectangular. So when choosing an image, you'll want to choose one that's got a width that's probably at least 1600 pixels. And you can edit your images in Paint and resize them and crop them so that they fit a little bit better in this area. But it's one thing to take into consideration when you're dealing with this banner. Now down here, you've got all the rest of the code for all of these elements. And as you can see, as opposed to the normal supporting page, there's a lot more that you need to do in the HTML code here. But for more information about working with these, you can consult the corresponding document that's going to be with this presentation. Or you can always, if you really get stuck, you can open a support ticket, and the webmaster team would be more than happy to help you out. So there are other areas that we're not going to really go over here. But again, if you have any questions about some of these things of how to use them, you can just try it out on a test page, or and see if it makes sense. Or you can consult the help or the tutorials that are included in Sitefinity. Or you can always contact the webmaster team directly or open a support ticket. And like I said, we'll be more than happy to assist you with that. So I hope this was helpful for everybody, and I wish you all success in your Sitefinity endeavors. Thank you.